Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Chacko, and I'm really happy to be here once again with a pop-up conversation, which is part of my Serenity and Health ministry. And it's one of the funnest parts, actually. I'm here today with Cynthia Damaskos. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Donna. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
It's really, really wonderful. Cynthia and I have been chatting here before we started. We decided we better turn on the record button or we'd have the whole interview over.
We don't want to use up all our good stuff before we record.
No, exactly. I have found a kindred sister with Cynthia in her spiritual journey and her professional work, and it's been really fun for us to connect, and I know you're going to value her message. Her official title is a functional nutrition and lifestyle coach, and she's fully trained and certified and has had a lot of experience in those arenas, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, Cynthia,
yes,
welcome again. Remind me where you come from, by the way. Where are you?
I'm in Northwest Indiana, up in Valparaiso. It's like a suburb of Chicago.
Okay, all right. Can you tell us how you got into being a functional, nutritional, and lifestyle coach and exactly what that is?
Okay, well, I've always had an interest in health and wellness since I was a teenager. At 17, I stopped drinking sodas or pop, depending on what part of the country you're in, or Coke as an umbrella term. I started focusing on water, and then I went into the corporate world and I kind of lost that passion that I had for health and wellness. I got caught up in, all the work and secular stuff in my career. And then later in life, I retired from my high-tech job and I started taking care of my husband's aunt who had Alzheimer's. And with just some subtle tweaking of my limited knowledge at that time, we were able to get her off of 13 medications, high blood pressure, diabetes, pain medication. There was a whole slew of them. And she lost weight. She'd been obese her entire adult life. She was an unhappy woman. And when she passed, she was off all of her meds. She had dropped 35 pounds. And she was happier and more content than she'd ever been. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I don't even really know what I'm doing. I'm just like reading the internet and Googling, right? What if I really knew? And so this passion rekindled in me. I wasn't ready to retire. I wanted to do something useful. And we're always seeking our purpose, right? God's purpose for us. And this felt like so spot on. So I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is my main certification. So my main certification is as an integrative nutrition health coach. So I work with people, mind, body, and soul. One of the things I realized when I was in school, I had to go to New York City several times, and there would be like an auditorium at the Jazz Center, 1,500, 2,000 people going through the school at the same time. Excuse me, from all over the world. And every time the speaker or the teacher would say the universe or God, whoever he or she is, or, just things like that, people would applaud and clap. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I'm a minority here. I'm not used to being a minority. Because, my friends are Christian typically, and I'm in the church. And I realize, oh my goodness, I'm a minority here. I have to take this message to my people that health and wellness doesn't have to be new age. It doesn't have to be all, yoga and yada, yada. I need to help separate the science from the woo-woo and bring it to my people. And that's why I'm focusing on Christian health.
Yeah. I kind of looked at it like, since those were that when you go to church and you have meetings and groups and you see a lot of folks who are not healthy and are not happy and stressed and all, it makes you realize You don't have to go searching all over. That's folks who may be interested in your message, and they have the advantage of a faith that can be a foundation for
Yes,
a health journey, which is a kind of the key way I look at it, and I think you do too.
I do too. And I'm an Orthodox Christian. When we go up for the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, we have certain prayers that we say before we go up and after we do, thanking God. And one of the parts of the prayer is that we're taking his body and blood for the health of body and soul. And then you look around, you go to coffee hour after church, and you just see unhealthy people eating junk.
Yeah.
So we just took the body and blood of Christ for health of body and soul. And now we're eating inflammatory fats, tons of sugar, and a bunch of stuff I know we're going to get into. And so I just saw, like you, this change that needs to happen, an understanding of our faith and that our body belongs to God, and we need to be good stewards of it.
Right. In medicine, it was the magnificence of the human body that got me into medicine. I mean, it's so extraordinary how it works and the pieces, and it's such a great gift. And also in medicine, it took me a while to fully understand how this magnificent machine can be damaged by how we live our lives, how we deal or don't deal with stress, what we put into our bodies is it not just 10-20% affected by massive changes in health. But anyways, yeah, well, that's cool. So you and I agree. So we'll keep putting our message out there. So help remind all of us, because we need reminders too, to take as good of care as we can with our bodies. We're not meaning you can't enjoy your bodies and enjoy life and enjoy good food, but yeah.
Well, like we said before we started, Donna, as Christians, we're so used to reading scripture and being good stewards of our finances and being good stewards of the gifts God has given us, the talents and everything. We don't hear so much about being good stewards of I think, excuse me, the biggest gift that we have, which is this body that allows us to do the things with our hands and our feet, our legs, our brain, to do the things God calls us to do while we're on this earth.
Exactly. Very well said. So here's the thing, Cynthia. There's a lot of things we can talk about, and we're going to narrow it down a little bit. But the next question is for me.
Oh, okay.
I read this book recently about fasting, and Lent starts in a few weeks. I'm not sure when. It's coming up after this conversation will be posted anyway.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about Lent, and I've been thinking about fasting, and I read this book, as I said. And it was a combination of a historical review of the very serious and powerful role of fasting in the long history of Christianity and many other faiths as well, along with the health advantages of fasting. And then I would say the third point was how in today's modern age, with our modern unhealthy diet, that it's more important than ever, except that we do it less than ever. And so I'm one of those people that have not done much fasting. That I'm a Catholic, and we don't have as strict fasting guidelines in our church as you do and some other faiths.
Mm-hmm.
And way less than 50 or 100 years ago, for sure. So I, like many folks, have not done much fasting. And what I have done, I haven't enjoyed, and it always gave me a headache. And I thought, I don't know if this is a really good thing. And, in talking, like in my women's groups about fasting, some say, and it makes a lot of sense, that they would rather, instead of giving up something, make sure that, for example, as a special Lenten sacrificial offering, that they give of their time and effort and energy to do stuff for people, for those in need, whatever. Anyway, this just got me really thinking about fasting. So my question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about what your church does in your personal experience? And if you have any suggestions for somebody like me who might want to move a little bit in that direction, but is there any way to do it without feeling sick?
Oh, my goodness, Donna, as you were talking, I was like, I could go 5 different directions right now.
You can say what you want, because we can't take the whole time on this. This is my question. Okay. I don't know if everybody else is interested.
Okay. Well, I love this question. I love fasting. And first of all, before we continue, I want to let everybody know that I have a lung disease called bronchiectasis, which causes me to cough and clear my throat at times. So I just want everyone to know I didn't come on the interview here sick. I'm fine. And I just apologize for that. Because I'm pretty sure, because when I get excited and I'm talking, it flares up. And I'm excited. I love this topic. Okay, so I came from an evangelical Protestant background where fasting meant like water fasts. Like you go days without any food at all, and it's for a certain period of time, and it's in prayer, and you're fasting for clarity on something or whatever. That's completely different from what I found in the Orthodox Church as far as our fasts go. We fast when everything is said and done, all of the fasting periods, including every Wednesday and Friday throughout the entire year, we fast for over half of the year. So this begs to answer the question, what does fasting mean? Because you say fasting to one person and it's different from another person. So one person may think, oh, nothing at all. Another person may think, oh, water fasting. Another person may say, oh, intermittent fasting, right? There are so many types of fasting. In the Orthodox Church, we've been, fasting for centuries. And actually, people as a whole have been fasting for millennia. But in the Orthodox Church, we took our fasting guidelines from how Christ fasted, how the apostles fasted. And then in around the 4th century, it started solidifying into, because people were doing different things, eating this, not eating that. It started solidifying for the church, here are the guidelines. So 4th century. And Orthodoxy goes back to the apostles. So we've been doing this since that time. So it's typically no animal products. So that's no meat or dairy or eggs. No olive oil or wine. And there are different reasons out there for why they think that the church didn't want you to do olive oil and wine. And that's the way we fast. And meat includes fish too, for the most part. There are some fasting times like leading up to Christmas during Advent where we can have more fish, but during Lent leading up to Easter or Pascha, which is what we call it in the Orthodox Church, we don't have fish.
So does that mean you eat 3 meals, but you just exclude those things?
We eat whatever we want within the parameters, which is basically a vegan diet, which during the short term, typically we would do it for 5 weeks, 40 days or so. Studies show that turns disease around. Right. If you're heading down the path to diabetes or heart disease, it can actually turn that around because it reduces inflammation. It's like, it blows my mind, Donna, because the early church knew this by the power of the Holy Spirit. And now in this century, science is showing that this is one of the healthiest things we could do is periodic periods of vegan eating.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
It's kind of like the Daniel plan diet for the same reason with the same origin, really.
Yeah.
Origin. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So that's not going to make you feel sick. I don't think.
That would not make me feel sick
and it's for a finite period of time. It's not like we're saying, oh, become a vegan for the rest of your life. that has implications,
Yeah.
ramifications, I should say. But yeah, this doesn't.
Yes. I know we're not going to get into it now, the topic of intermittent fasting. That's a whole nother topic well, for another time. But that's helpful, and I appreciate that. And I am. Would you, for our listeners, describe the spiritual benefit that what is taught, what you believe from fasting? The spiritual benefit.
Absolutely, yes. So a couple things here. First of all, fasting in the Orthodox Church isn't just about food. In fact, they don't want you to think about food. It's simplifying everything you can around food, which a lot of people tend to be like, oh, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? And that's their focus. That's really not what the church is calling us to do. It's like make a pot of vegetable soup and eat it all week and then forget about it. Fasting is a three-legged stool. It's what we're eating. It is increased almsgiving, which is what you said that your friends are saying. It's more serving our brothers and sisters in Christ, serving people. And then the third is, my mind just went blank.
Prayer. Is it prayer?
Yes, increased prayer. Thank you. I've only been Orthodox for like 20 years. So what? What'd you say?
We must have a similar stool.
Yeah, yes. And the third is increased prayer, which for us, we increase it on a personal level. We read the Psalms every day, which we may not be doing in our normal day. We worship more often. We go to church a lot. Sometimes it's 5 days a week. So it's a three-legged stool. And if you take one of those legs off of the stool, if it breaks, the stool's going to fall. Yeah. So this is for our spiritual health. It's not really for our physical health. That's just a byproduct. It's for our spiritual health. And I have a quote here by St. John Chrysostom. In the 4th century, he was of course, as you know, one of the early church fathers. He wrote a homily on fasting that mentions its medical or medicinal benefits. He declared that fasting is called the mother of bodily health. And its focus is to take us closer to the spiritual life and being closer to God.
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. What you just said, how the fasting came about for spiritual reasons long ago before there was science, and now we know that there's benefit. I have been utterly blown away and intrigued and talked often about that same phenomenon, which happens with other Christian practices also. I practice centering prayer, which is a meditative prayer.
Yes.
Quiet silence you can call it meditation. In terms of the logistics, it looks like meditation, right? And to know that there's innumerable mental and physical health benefits from this prayer practice that I took for God, not for my health. Mm-hmm. It's just like I call them collateral benefits, collateral gain from our spiritual practice. Our good God, I guess he rewards us, or he wants us to be healthy. I don't know how it works, but it's cool.
It is cool. And okay, so you take meditation from an Eastern religion standpoint, if it's Buddhist or Hindu or whatever, and a lot of times it's taught that it's all about me, my enlightenment, my, sense of peace, me, right? You take that, though, as a Christian, like the centering prayer, contemplative prayer, I call it prayerful silence, is what I teach my community. And it's like you're listening for God's small, still voice while you are in silence. You're listening to your breath, but you're listening for him. That's when he talks to you. Yeah. If you center yourself on him, you're going to reap all of the scientifically proven physical benefits of silence, and you are going to grow spiritually. And so it's like, for a Christian, doing this type of prayer is just like double what everyone else gets who's doing it the other way.
I know. But Cynthia, I believe that quiet silence for those who choose to use any form of meditation may lead them in places they didn't know. It may lead them to God just because of the quiet and silence. And trying to think of his first name, Benner wrote this wonderful book about that, mentioning that, where they're looking for their true self.
Yeah.
But when you search for your true self, that's where God is.
Exactly.
So,
and we can't second guess God's ability to use any circumstance like that if the person's heart is open.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. Okay. So I think this was a helpful discussion for the fasting part, because it give me something to think about, and others who are listening. I think that the choice should be to think about it, reflect on it, pray about it, and then make a choice and decide whether you're going to do something about fasting, what you're going to do. Make that commitment and then do it.
Yes.
So that's a really wonderful goal as we lead. For those, not everybody who's listening to this is in the type of a Christian religion where they celebrate and engage in Lent, but many are. So
sure,
it's a good preparation for Easter.
And when I was an evangelical, our church didn't practice Lent or talk about it really much at all. But my group of just 7 of us that met every week, we wanted to embrace Lent. We studied it. We wanted to practice it. And we started coming up with our own ways of how we were going to, and at the time, I didn't know that there were some, churches with denominations with set ways out there, but we were just doing our own thing because we wanted to get closer to God. We wanted to grow in Christ. And I think that's the heart of probably everyone who's listening to this right now.
Right. I agree.
Watching.
I agree. Okay, well, let's get on to nutrition in a more broad perspective. You have your ministry. You also see clients, so you advise people about nutrition. And clearly, we have a problem in our country with nutrition. There's a lot of unhealthy food and unhealthy habits, and there's a lot of obesity, unfortunately.
Yes.
So I want you to kind of maybe tell us what you tell your clients, but I really do want you to address the plate method, the modern plate method, not the old plate method. And we'll explain what that is when we talk about it. But I do want that to be one of our topics.
Sure. I'm ready for that.
So
you just want me to first tell everyone what I tell my clients?
Yes. Do you have like a set, kind of a way you approach it?
I sure do. So based on scripture, what did God give us first to eat? Plants. So eat mostly plants. What did he give us later on? He gave us animal products. So on the side, have some animal products. I mean, it's very simple, right?
That would solve 3/4 of the problems, probably, wouldn't it? Just that.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the second part. Eat food the way God meant for you to eat it, in the way that he created it. So that isn't with artificial additives and colors and flavorings and everything. That isn't highly processed with preservatives in it. That isn't where sugar is added to everything, like a can of beans. He gave us beans. He didn't give us beans with sugar. He didn't give us, I was going to say spaghetti sauce. Yeah. Spaghetti sauce came down from heaven. No, that was in Leviticus. No. But you know what I'm saying. So he didn't give us food that was sprayed with Roundup and has glyphosate in it, genetically modified food. So eat mostly plants, animal products on the side as a condiment, and in its purest, cleanest form, the way God created it. And I think that would solve most everyone's problems.
Right. Right.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I like because it's simple.
Yeah.
In the clinic, seeing people, a lot of folks have become reliant, or they like the specificity of a diet that's very defined about what you can and cannot eat, and it might include calorie count or ounces measuring, certain foods in certain categories, and uh, aside from the fact that I just could never keep track of that, it just always turned me off because it seemed so impractical.
It is. It's not sustainable.
No.
Drives
So,
me
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So for someone who has uh, this book I mentioned, I'm going to mention in the show notes because I'll refer to it. It's by Dr. Jay Richards, and he calls this Standard American Diet. His abbreviation is the SAD diet, the SAD.
Yeah, sad.
I don't know if that was his origin, but anyway, yeah. So
No, that came, yeah. I
yeah,
want to say Dr. Hyman or one of those doctors.
yeah,
Yeah, can't remember.
SAD diet. Well, anyway, um, it's a big transition though to go from a diet that one of the things I preach is like you've got to at least have 5 or 6 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And that sounds really simple when you say that. Oh, anybody can do that, but not really. If you get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee and a piece of toast, and then you have that's breakfast, and then or a bagel or something, and then lunch is a sandwich. It might have one piece of lettuce, and then you're to dinner and you haven't had any fruits and vegetables. And uh, so I know that's a very simple. What do you think about that as a part of the dietary goal? Too little?
Yeah. Okay, there's so many places I could go with this too, Donna. So what you just described as a typical, food is a menu of setting someone up for diabetes, inflammation, heart disease, and death in their early life. Okay. So there's so much wrong with that. And we didn't really highlight that, but yeah, you're right. There aren't any vegetables in there. Here's one of the things I want to say. Fruits and vegetables, not the same thing. Our government has been lumping those two together for decades. 8 servings of fruit and vegetables, 6 servings of fruit and vegetables. I used to do corporate health coaching where people would get lower insurance rates if they spent like, I don't know, I think it was 15 minutes or 30 minutes with me once a month. So they were doing it under duress. Most of them didn't want to talk to me at all. They just wanted the good insurance rate. But so often I would say, okay, so how do you eat? Oh, I eat 6 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Oh, that's great. Okay. But I'm obese and I'm this and I'm that and I'm diabetic and yada, yada. I said, okay, well, tell me what the fruits and vegetables are. And it's like, yeah, I had some carrots, and then I had an apple, and then I had an orange, and then I had some peas, a banana, grapefruit, papaya, mango. And I'm like, no wonder,
Yeah.
because fruits, especially modern fruit today, is bred for high sugar content.
Right.
You might as well be eating candy. 85% of the population doesn't even know that they're on a trajectory of prediabetes. Those people should be limiting their fruit to 1 a day, preferably berries, because it hits your sugar, your insulin lighter than other ones. So when you take this government, 6 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, that's ridiculous. You do need 6 servings of vegetables a day.
Yeah. I guess my thought was for the folks that have the kind of diet that I mentioned, which I'm not putting that out there as what anybody should eat. It's like you said, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
As a step to just somehow move in a better direction. But that's a very good point, because vegetables are more challenging for people to figure out if it's not in your custom, in your tradition, to how to fill yourself and feel satisfied with vegetables? Do you get that complaint
Yes.
from your clients? And
Well, yeah, I'm not telling everyone to just eat vegetables and that's it. I mean, you have to have in every meal, um, 20 grams of protein is what I tell people to shoot for. You have to have a healthy fat, an anti-inflammatory, healthy fat or fat with every meal. And you have to have fiber, which can come in the form of vegetables. So every single meal should have those three components. So you're not just getting full off vegetables, you're actually getting that feeling of satiation
right.
from the fat and the protein.
When you work with clients, do you do meal ideas, suggestions, plans, recipes, that sort of stuff, so they feel like they know how to start?
I do with some, everyone is so individual. I don't approach any client the way, that I do another. I would say typically I'd rather teach them how to fish rather than give them a fish. So I give them the parameters. If they want ideas for recipes, I'll supply them. But I really want them, after they're done working with me, to just feel like they've got this down and they know how to do it on their own. They don't need me.
Right. Okay. So what about the plate method? And for those of you who don't know, it's the revised plate method put out by whom? Who originated? It's from the
The Department of Agriculture?
Yeah, I think so. But I know Harvard has a wonderful public health and health site that I usually go to, and they have a lot written about it. I knew they didn't originate it, but it's a good place to look at. Anyway, as I recall, the way it's written is that if you take not a massive plate, but a more moderate size, like say dinner plate, and that half of it should be the vegetables, mainly some fruits, a quarter protein, and a quarter carbs, healthy carbs. And I think that's how it's set. So and then they have on the side, I think, I don't, that's the basics. So what do you think about that?
All right. So I came prepared, Donna.
Yeah, well, I told you. Good. Because I use this because I don't have a lot of time. I don't like when I was in the clinic. You don't have time to talk to people, and if you have just a few minutes,
I
it's
know.
like a
That's so
valuable place
sad.
to start for someone who's like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I have a lot to say on this. So if there's anyone out there just listening, I just held up the healthy eating plate.
Hold it up one more time.
So I'm just going to go through some things on it.
Yeah. So you see vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy protein. Okay. Keep that in your head while you can move it while you're talking.
Okay. First of all, and I'm going to go by what you saw here and then also what I had read about it, because I don't go by these guidelines. Okay. There's a lot wrong with these guidelines. So one thing, it says use healthy oils like olive and canola oil. Canola oil is inflammatory. It's one of the unhealthiest oils you can possibly eat. You have to stay away from canola. There's so much marketing right now around it, pushing it. It comes from the rape seed. They call it canola. It has a better name than rapeseed oil. Okay. So any oil from a seed is chemically processed and is high in inflammatory properties. So you want to stay away from seed oils. Then I read that it says that you want to only have those fats for 2 meals, 2 out of 3. You have to eat a healthy fat at every single meal. I don't think people understand that when you're eating a bunch of vegetables, a lot of those nutrients are fat soluble. You have to have fat so that you can absorb. It's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. So you must make sure you have these healthy fats. Your brain is made of fat. Your hormones are created from fat. Your cells need fat. They also need cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a bad word. Cholesterol is a good word. So this is old science. Okay, the next thing. I love that they said the more veggies and the greater, the better. I'm used to not turning around, but I can't say that, but mitigating symptoms of MS, for instance, by going up to 9 servings of vegetables a day. Like you can really turn around disease with vegetables. So if you're a sick person, up your vegetables. This says eat plenty of fruits in all colors. See, that's just like, really, we're telling the 85% of the population that's pre-diabetic and don't know it to eat plenty of fruits. Then we have eat a variety of whole grains. And this shows that a large portion of your plate is whole grains. Okay, this is put out by the Department of Agriculture. Do you see a conflict of interest here? We now know with modern science that grains are causing diabetes. Grains are causing inflammation. One of the biggest things that turn my clients' health around is when I have them do a detox from grains, they start seeing results immediately and their energy levels go up. So I'm not saying no to ever eat grains, but I'm saying that it should not take up this much of your plate. That's just old science and completely outdated. Choose fish, poultry, beans, and nuts. Limit red meat and cheese. Avoid bacon. Why? It's not telling you. See, then this is where the nuance comes in. The studies that are saying that red meat are bad for you and will kill you and give you high cholesterol and yada, 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 they're basing it on conventionally raised meat shot up with hormones and antibiotics and fed candy to fatten them up as fast as they can before their stomachs explode and kill them. We're talking about unhealthy meat, which as animals and mammals and people, we all store toxins in our fat. So we're talking about a cow, a toxic cow that we're ingesting. Okay, so that's what all those studies are. So I'm not saying go out and eat as much red meat as you want, because some people genetically cannot handle it, but a lot of people can. So I just hate this like demonizing certain food groups that God gave us. What we should demonize is the way they're being raised and processed and how they've
and the excess
ruined our food supply.
I think
and excess.
There's been an excess reliance on meat
Right.
instead of vegetables, for example.
Exactly. And then, bacon, on conventionally raised pigs, bacon is terrible. On bacon that has nitrites added to it, it's terrible. But you can source good bacon. I wouldn't eat it all the time, but every once in a while, some bacon with your eggs. Heavens, yes. So, and then I don't like what they said about beverages either, but I could go on and on.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, you're raising some really valid points. I mean, like I said, when I look at the standard American diet and just look at the plate, that method, it's like a huge step in the right direction. It's obviously, especially with your input here, not the ideal end game, but I still think it's for somebody looking at that, it may be an absolute shock to even begin to comprehend that they could eat a diet like that, in contrast to what they are eating.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah.
And
so I appreciate that input about it.
You're welcome. And I just have one other thing I'd just like to highlight, because this is really something I love to teach, and that is how to read labels.
Right. We don't have a whole lot of time, so give us a short version.
I'll give you the short in fact, and then I'll tell everyone they can go to my website and pull up my ebook, which is free, and they'll see this whole thing.
Oh, perfect.
But the label
put that in the show notes, everyone, so you know how to get it.
Yes. The label on the front, it's all marketing. Ignore it. It says organic, heart healthy, yada, yada, yada. Forget about it. It's in greens and browns and looks natural. Okay, just look on the back. The nutrition numbers, fat, carbs, sugar, yada, yada. You know what? Those can be played with and tweaked with so many loopholes that they're not even accurate. And who cares how much fat is in there? If it's coming from an avocado, yes, please. If it's coming from canola oil, no, thank you. So you have to go to the ingredient list. If you don't know what it is, you probably shouldn't be eating it. It's either a preservative, it's an excitotoxin, it's something that you shouldn't be getting. So make sure you know what the ingredient list is, and that's what you can get in that ebook that I
that's
wrote.
great to know. That I would encourage everybody listening to look at that. But sometimes the labels are helpful. For one thing, I think they've straightened them out a little bit, but in the past, somebody would pick up a 15-ounce container of Coca-Cola and say, "Oh, it only has 150 calories. Look at this." But that's because they say per serving. So I think they have. In other words, you look at the label, it says 150 calories. That's per serving, not per bottle. So
and then you look at the ingredient label and it's basically poison in a bottle.
There you go. Yes. Yeah. Well, my goodness gracious, we have covered a lot of ground. You're going to tell us what you have to offer our listeners, but before we give those specific links and whatnot, is there any overarching advice or takeaway on the subject of nutrition and for our listeners?
Yeah, I think overarching is your health and your weight are made up primarily of 85% what you eat, not your genetics. We know now from the study of epigenetics that we have far more control than they ever thought we did. Our genes load the gun, our lifestyle pulls the trigger. So don't just say, "Oh, I have diabetes in my family, so I'm going to have diabetes. Can you give me a bowl of ice cream and I'll take some medication?" You have so much control. Just eat pure, eat clean, eat what God gave us, the way He intended it. Follow Scripture, and you're going to be okay. It's not about looking good in a bikini. It's about feeling good and having energy and sleeping well and being the arms and legs for God here on this earth.
Very good. I like that. Very well said. Well, so to all our listeners, Cynthia has a website, and I'm going to have her tell us her website and the offerings that she has for us and what we can all learn.
So I have two websites. First of all, my practice is holisticchristianlife.com. That's where you will find my book, The Holistic Christian Woman. That's where you can get in touch with me, whatever. Then I have my ministry, which is called Filled with Less. So filledwithless.com. Don't put a www in front of it because that won't get you there. So filledwithless.com is the ministry. That's where you can get on, you can watch my show. You can get the ebook on what to eat. There are all kinds of free resources there. That's also where you'll see I have a membership for people who want to live healthy, mind, body, and soul. And also we're starting our course up again called 6 Weeks to Sanity. It's starting on February 21st, and it opens periodically throughout the year. But if you get this in time, you can jump in. We'd love to have you. It's just 6 weeks, 6 modules on mindset, goal setting, time management, health and wellness, boundaries and relationships, and fostering our faith. And if you use the code FWL show, love, so filled with less love, FWL love, you'll get 10% off.
Very good. And we'll put that, like I said, all on the show notes. So it'll be readily accessible to y'all.
Yeah.
Well, that's very, very cool. Well, I think I need to go to the store and buy me some blueberries. You know what's sad though? What's so hard is the cost of all those healthy things that people need to eat. I mean, it's not a wonder people don't eat berries. Who's, you know what I mean? Seriously.
Yeah. But you know what, Donna? I hear that. But if you're eating potato chips and Coke and you're smoking and you're going to Starbucks for the mocha latte grandes with the blah, 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 and all this stuff, if you can start like shifting money around,
I know.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it's doable. I know sometimes it's not. There are food deserts, there are people, but
Right.
I think
No,
so
I agree with
often.
you. I agree with you. I'm so glad we're having this conversation just before Lent starts on March 2nd too, because it's just a good time to think about all of this, and it's all tied together, this mind, body, spirit thing. And these are the kind of steps that will make us our bodies be healthier, make us be happier, feel better, be able to be more loving. It's just a kind of a win-win-win thing.
Yes,
Anyway, I'm glad that you and I agree totally.
me too. It feels so good to talk with a
Yeah,
like-minded person.
yes. Um, so I thank you so much for joining us, and I thank everybody who's listening. And look at the show notes for various references. I'll put all of Cynthia's, and I might add a couple things of my own for you to look at. And everyone have a great day. And thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you, Donna. It was a pleasure.
It was really fun. Thank you.